Just the same, like you said, with labor. It's like the more you resist it, the longer it could take. It's like you're really just better off letting it happen, going into that big surrender.
And so I didn't really have much fear at all. But at the same time, I think I underestimated the mental preparation that you can put into having an unmedicated birth to make it even easier for you.
It took mental strength for me to have that surrender and start to allow God to show me, like, this is a story you have. God's going to be able to use it in other ways, but not like resisting and being like, why didn't this, happen the way I wanted, and like feel so disappointed, but just kind of like accept it and like have that surrender in a different way.
I know some people want privacy in that initial postpartum period. For me, I felt extremely social. I felt like I needed people to come and sit with me and talk with me. I needed to know, okay, like on Wednesday, so-and-so is coming over, and it sort of breaks up the day because it's hard for most women. And easy in some aspects too, but it's really nice to kind of normalize that it's a big challenging season of life and it's not really supposed to be easy.
Hi mamas, my name is Megan Norkis and welcome to Our Virtual Village. Starting this podcast was inspired by a local mom group that I went to during my pregnancy and postpartum journey. Connecting with and relating to other moms was a major key for me as I was navigating all the new things that come with being a new mom. So my goal with this podcast is to bring those conversations and stories from my community to a virtual platform, and that's gonna bless moms everywhere. I'm so excited. My hope is that as you listen to this episode, you can hear from and learn about the common struggles that other moms are having in the trenches of motherhood with you, and feel encouraged because you're not momming alone. We're all winging it at this mom thing, and we can all learn from and help each other. So we're excited to have you as part of our village, and let's dive into the conversation.
Well, I'm so excited to get started because actually the inspiration for almost like this whole podcast came from the conversation we're having today. I feel so blessed to have you in my community and in my life. This is Miss Maya, and you are an amazing midwife with Modern Midwives. You're also a co-owner, so you have built a beautiful practice along with Mandy, who is on here. So thanks for taking the time to sit down and hang out.
I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be a great episode because it's something super relatable, I think, to all moms in all stages of life, whether you're pregnant or a new mom or you've been a mom for a long time. We actually started talking at postpartum group. I think the topic was talking about like how to cope during motherhood. We had some really crazy like tips as far as even just like sticking your head in the freezer. Is something moms do. I'm like,
a lot of tangible advice that day.
I'm like, I need to write that one down. Sounds great. But like take your kids outside if they're getting pent up. It seems so simple, but just little things like that. We're like, if I am freaking struggling, what do I do? So we were talking about all these practical things, and you're a home birth midwife. You have been for 5.5 years now. And so tell me a little bit about what came to your mind, because it wasn't necessarily a practical tool. It's this very philosophical, deep, like, kind of amazing topic that really changed my life. And it sounds like when you learned this, it changed your life too.
Yeah. So I learned the quote or the term, the only struggle is in the resistance, so many years ago before I even went to midwifery school. I was really young. I heard one of my really close, very wise friends say it. And it just stuck with me. It was just one of those things that stuck in my brain. Anytime there was any sort of challenge or life adversity or anything like that, it just kind of pops in. And I realized that resisting whatever it is that's coming makes the struggle 1,000 times worse, you know? So it's hard no matter what. Then when you resist it, it's even harder. So that applies to so many things in life, but I think especially motherhood, labor, pregnancy, everything that has to do with being a mother, especially those super early newborn days where the demand on you is so much and relentless.
And new. Everything's new. Everything's different. It's wild. Yeah, it was crazy because we kind of, go around in a circle. A lot of times there's organic conversation. The circle just disintegrates and we're all just chatting with each other. But when it was your turn, you were like talking about applying, the struggles and the resistance to motherhood. And then I just feel like I saw you have this epiphany and you're like, just like in labor, just like you're like, it just kind of all came together. And so we were all very inspired by that conversation, and I like wrote that quote down, and then we actually literally made t-shirts. So shout out to Modern Birth Threads, who has super adorable aesthetic, like birth inspired like merch and stuff like that.
Love it.
But yeah, so as far as, I guess we could talk about motherhood first, because I'm kind of talking to you from today's perspective as like a new mom. Our babies are only like a month apart, which is kind of awesome. So they're gonna grow up and be best friends forever, which is great. But yeah, so maybe like you said, the first bit of motherhood is kind of intense, and you know, you can do your best to ask the right questions, read all the, I don't know, blogs or Instagram posts to prepare your mind, but it's kind of hard to know what to expect. Different things arise for different people. You end up struggling with things you may not have expected and stuff. So what were some of your biggest challenges? Like, was there certain moments in the first month where you just felt like smashing your head into a wall? Like, what was the hardest part for you?
Well, for us specifically, we had right off the bat some breastfeeding issues. I had damaged nipples from the start, which was a huge challenge. And just a really painful latch. He had an upper lip tie. I had flat nipples. It just wasn't a good combo.
Terrible.
And I just had one of those babies that just I think most babies are like this, but I definitely have a baby that wants to be on the boob 24/7. So there was just no break for my nipples at all. So that was definitely the hardest part, I would say. So much so that all the other typical struggles of the early postpartum phase were sort of eclipsed by that. You know, like the getting up so frequently and just the big learning curve. I think I definitely had an edge that most people don't really have because I work in birth and I'm used to getting up in the middle of the night and having interrupted sleep, and I'm surrounded by babies, so I understand what it is that they need for the most part. But breastfeeding definitely caught me off guard. I thought for sure, oh, this is just going to be, you know, something that comes naturally and easily for me, just like being pregnant is, just like giving birth is. I'm sure breastfeeding will be the same, and it certainly was not.
So even, because I haven't talked to you a ton about this, so even like the very first latch, like you have your baby at home, which we can totally talk about too. But was the very first latch immediately like something's not right, or was it kind of just over time it got worse?
No, the first latch was great, and he latched right on. If anything, it was extremely vigorous. He knew exactly what he wanted, and he went for it. So maybe that could have been a sign to me of like, okay, this baby's really into the nipple. I think it was a lot to do with just my anatomy and his anatomy, and he had the upper lip tie. Just it made it so that he couldn't latch on in the best way. He was definitely transferring milk fine. He was growing fine, but I had a lot of damage. And I looked into all the things, went to go see an IBCLC. I considered revision and all of that. But as time went on, it just got better and better, and his tie got stretchier and stretchier. So that was great. But it did go on for a long, long time. I had on and off damaged nipples for 6 months.
Oh, that's a long time.
It's a long time.
Wow.
It is a really long time. And, you know, I would spend so much time healing them, and they would heal, and then they would crack open again, or they'd get a little blister or something. It was always something, you know, there was always some sort of pain associated with latching him on. And even when they weren't damaged, it just hurt. I think I just have very sensitive nipples.
Which, I mean, and breastfeeding supposed to be such like a beautiful process. You hear about like how people do extended breastfeeding and how it's bonding. So I can definitely imagine, like, especially being a midwife and really understanding all of the benefits and being passionate about that. Like how frustrating it is that you're like, kind of also just don't want to freaking do it anymore. You know, so how did you kind of like combat that? Because I know some women who have like struggles just say like, and I've even heard personal friends of mine, or even my own mom was like, my second daughter, she just didn't really want it, you know, and then so we just switched to formula, you know, and that's an option that maybe keeps people's mental sanity, and like, no judgment to people who like at all choose to do that. But what was it that made you like, I am going to fight through this, you know, like that took a lot of mental strength.
Yeah, for sure. I think just being extremely stubborn
worked in your favor.
Really helped me. I just had a mindset where I knew breastfeeding, especially extended breastfeeding, is something that I want. so terribly for both me and my son. And I just had a mindset that I'm not going to give up no matter how long it takes. And, but I will say that going through my experience gave me a lot of empathy for moms who decide to formula feed, especially going through damaged nipples over and over again. I think honestly, anyone in their right mind probably would not go through that, but I wouldn't recommend damaged nipples for 6 months. Definitely not my recommendation, but I'm just that special kind of crazy that that saw it through.
And it worked out, but it's okay. And you saw it through. So it I'm sure you may be curious how will it work out next time, like if maybe the next baby's anatomy is different. It takes a lot to not kind of like scare yourself probably, or just live in like fear of all of that, And I guess what I'm curious is like, how does the concept of the struggles and the resistance apply specifically to this? Like because you just had to surrender. I think that's the opposite of resisting, is just being like, oh yeah, it is what it is.
Yep. Huge surrender, and resisting it absolutely made it so much worse. Just like, when you're resisting a really big contraction in labor and you're tensing up and, you're just kind of fighting against it, the pain is so much stronger than if you breathe really deeply and relax as much as you can into it. It's the biggest challenge of your whole life to just relax into your contractions. But if you can figure that out, then they don't hurt quite as badly. I won't say that they don't hurt. Of course, they still hurt, but
they're intense.
Not as badly as if you're holding on for dear life, And same thing with a painful latch, I would say. Like if you can breathe through it and you can get the baby in a good position and just get into that groove, then it doesn't hurt quite as badly. And then just the mental struggle, if you're constantly thinking, I don't want to do this. Oh, this is such a burden on me.
Then it hurts worse.
It hurts worse. It hurts mentally worse because your baby doesn't care. Your baby is going to wake up still, even if you're struggling, and your baby is going to need you to do all the things and wake up every couple hours and change their diaper and nurture them and love them over and over and over again. And if you resist it, then it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be fun at all.
Just the same, like you said, with labor. It's like the more you resist it, the longer it could take. It's like you're really just better off letting it happen, going into that big surrender. So you're a home birth midwife and you had your baby at home. Was that like such a full circle moment, just like the best day of your life?
It was amazing. It really was. It was the best day of my life. And it did catch me off guard a little bit. I thought I was going to be pregnant for a while longer. I mean, I was 40 weeks, so I should have assumed it could happen any day, but for some reason in my mind, I thought I would be 42 weeks or something.
Yeah. As a first time mom, we're always told like, just prepare your mind for 42.
Oh yeah.
Like I was due December 15th. So I was like, when people were like, when are you having your baby? I would say definitely by next year. I was just thinking definitely by January. Like I didn't even want to think about the beginning of December, but then of course, the closer your due date comes, you're just like, so
yeah, how much longer are we going to do this?
So 2 weeks is kind of long. But yeah, I mean, I actually did not make it to your birth story. I was going through a lot, and even kind of as I was reflecting on this topic, the struggle is in the resistance. I was like, when did I feel this the most, in motherhood? Because there are, days where my baby's teething and I'm just stressed and, I can resist, like just let her nap on me or whatever, just kind of like end up surrendering. But especially in early motherhood, and I, have kind of built a different relatability than I ever expected with moms who end up going through emergency surgery and didn't expect to have a birth story that went the way it did. And I will say, and I have never told you this, I don't know if I've ever told anybody this, but because you had your baby about a month after me, that was honestly right around the time that I was like struggling. It was probably the hardest, just like mentally for me. My baby kind of slept great throughout the night. She'd wake up, latch, or I'd change her diaper. She'd kind of go back to sleep. So the sleep aspect wasn't super tough for me. But it was the recovery that was taking so long because I had really, I'm a preparer. I had 82 checklists. I had, I made myself like a chart for the first 40 days so I could check off every day that I completed of the first 40 days because I was like all into that book. And, they say the 5-5-5 rule. So I was like really passionate about all these different things mentally as I was preparing for postpartum. But I didn't know I was going to have emergency surgery, of course. And So when that happened, and instead of a home birth, I was under general anesthesia. It's very different.
Way different. The polar opposite of what you planned.
Yeah. And then healing from surgery was just also way more intense than I ever really mentally prepared for. And, you know, so I did the first 40 days, you know, it's about 4 or 5 weeks. But when you have surgery, really kind of the minimum is more like 8 weeks or even up to 12 weeks that you should actually kind of start even moving around more and doing light stretching or walking and stuff. So it took me way longer. And I was so excited to hear your birth story. Even we were pregnant at the same time and stuff. And I remember the time came and I'm like, I'm going to Maya's birth story. Like, dang it, I'm going to be there. And I remember actually even seeing your video when you post it and stuff. It's so beautiful. Like, I have nothing obviously negative to say, but where I was mentally, I remember seeing it. And this is actually kind of a core memory. You're involved in it, so I'm telling you. So I watched your birth story, and of course, I'm a birth story nerd. So my first, you know, like instinct is like, oh, Maya's birth story. And I watched it, and I'm like crying and happy. Aww. And then I just set down my phone and I just sobbed because it just, where I was resisting was kind of accepting what happened to me. You know, it was like really hard to process because, you know, when you're preparing for birth, you want to like picture it mentally and prepare and like see yourself there and like all of these different things. And it was really hard for me to like picture that that's not what happened. I'm like, wait, so we weren't at my house. Like it literally took me weeks of like realizing that didn't happen. And around the time even our other friend Amberly and like you were having your baby, I was just like, that really isn't my story. And and I mean, it took mental strength for me to have that surrender and start to allow God to show me like, this is a story you have. We're going to, you know, God's going to be able to use it in other ways, but not like resisting and being like, why didn't this, you know, happen the way I wanted and like feel so disappointed, but just kind of like accept it and like have that surrender in a different way.
Absolutely.
And so I don't know. I'm sure some women can relate to like your breastfeeding struggles and stuff, but I also like have such a big heart also and bigger empathy, like you mentioned, for women who really just probably even maybe years later feel so disappointed how things happen and they're still like coping with it, even resisting that acceptance and just being like, how can God use this? How can I relate to women in this way? That was a big hurdle for me. So I would say that's kind of how I experience it most intensely. Like when we talk about this topic and like struggling and resisting acceptance of that tough pill to swallow for me.
It is a really tough pill, and that's kind of the crazy wild magic ride of birth is that it can go amazing and it's still not quite what you envisioned. Even if you get the water birth and the home birth and all of that, it still usually doesn't go detail by detail exactly how people envisioned it because it's unpredictable and it's wild and crazy, and you can do all the preparation and you can make all the plans and you can make all your checklists and it's going to go the way it goes. You know, you wake up that day and you just surrender to whatever the day brings, and it can be no, you really truly can't. And I think one way that I think about birth is more of a rite of passage for people, and that can go in so many different ways, you know, and whatever it is that your birth, however it unfolded, the lessons that you ended up acquiring from that birth was your rite of passage, you know, and some people have an easy breezy situation and that's their rite of passage. And then other people have a really, really hard day, or a hard couple of days. And that's, you know, whatever rite of passage that they needed, which is a very tough pill to swallow, as you said. Yeah, it really, really is. And
I've even, like, as I've shared my birth story and more people have been just kind of reaching out, because I even said multiple times throughout sharing, like, if you also struggled and your birth story is crazy, like, let me know. Like, this is a community I just want to connect with, because I fill my mind with a lot of positive birth stories and stuff. And I do think there's positive aspects of mine, of course. And I got a beautiful baby. And so, you know, all of that. But even moms who had a perfect home birth, but then their baby ended up having to go to the NICU for a little bit, and like that was traumatic for them in different ways. So there's kind of always a little something that's always a little something different.
It's always hard, you know, and
in different ways.
And some people, in totally different ways. There's different levels of hard, but I guarantee you there's nobody out there who's given birth that said every single detail was so easy and perfect. There's always something. It could be little things, it could be big things like emergency surgery, you know, but we're just along for the ride. We were just along for the ride.
Hanging out, just a part of it, you know? So I guess, because I didn't make it to your birth story, I've heard different aspects of it and stuff, but through, your labor and then specifically delivery, was there moments where you felt the saying, the struggles only in the resistance, or the only struggles in the resistance? I want to say it.
Yeah.
Like that really came in your mind, like in labor, this was the hardest part for me.
For sure. I think through reflecting on my labor, I think all throughout it, I could have relaxed even more because the video looks really sweet.
Yeah.
And it looks
so
like,
sweet.
it looks like I just breezed right through it. And I definitely did not breeze right through it.
Yeah.
It was a challenge. And I think one thing that, maybe put me at a disadvantage was because I am a midwife and have attended hundreds of births and have seen so many women do it. It was an advantage and a disadvantage that I didn't have any fear about going through labor because I knew for the most part that birth is normal and that most of the time women can do it, and the things that go wrong are more so an exception to the norm. Right. And I had that core inner knowing, after witnessing so many women. And so I didn't really have much fear at all. But at the same time, I think I underestimated the mental preparation that you can put into having an unmedicated birth to make it even easier for you. And so I didn't really do a ton of relaxation techniques, and I didn't really do a ton of like practicing breathing and relaxing and all that before going into labor. I just kind of winged it.
Yeah, you're like, it's gonna happen. Let's go.
I just kind of thought, like my baby will come out and it'll be fine. It'll just be a good day, and I definitely was naive, just like a first-time mom in that way. And it was faster than I thought it would be. I had envisioned that it would be a whole 24-hour-long process or more. And my active labor was only 7 hours, which to some people might seem like, oh my gosh, that's, long or whatever. But for a first-time mom, that definitely is faster than what I had anticipated. So I thought I would have all this time to get in the right headspace and to get really relaxed. But as soon as I got back into my house, because I was off, doing things, and I got distracting myself. I really distracted myself very well, because as soon as I got home, it all just hit me super fast. And I really only had a handful of contractions where I would say that I wasn't totally resisting, or not totally resisting, but I wasn't clenching and, I really I was very, very vocal, which is not a bad thing at all, but I do think I could have reined it in and had a bit more control. So I will say that's a goal of mine for my next labor is to surrender even more and to focus on my breath even more and not resist, because when it's super strong like that, oh my gosh, it's everything you got to for sure to not break down.
Like try to run away from it.
You can't run away. You definitely can't run away.
It's here. That's wild. So did you do any of like the affirmations? Did you have that kind of stuff playing, or you just had like a music playlist?
I had like my birth playlist, and it was relaxing. It was music that definitely got me like in the zone, but I think I underestimated that you can practice relaxation and breathing. I just thought, when the time comes, I'll relax and I'll breathe, and I don't need to practice that. But then in your day-to-day life, it's relaxing and syncing our breath with our body is not something that most people are usually doing.
We take such like short, like quick breaths that barely even fill our lungs. So to like, your lungs are a muscle, which is kind of crazy. You have to actually train them and like get them used to that kind of stuff. So that's a good point.
It was like the first time in labor I was trying to figure out, okay, let me sync my breath to my body and my mind and I was trying to do that in labor. And I definitely could have practiced that before.
Maybe a couple times. That's so funny. Well, like you said, I think it's always just understanding like a deeper level of surrendering. So there's no way to know. You need to do more work than experiencing it and applying all of those lessons that you learned to the next time. And I'm kind of going through that now that I'm pregnant again. I'm like, I need to re-practice everything. I can't just feel like, oh, I remember how to do this, because I did go through labor up until the point where I ended up transferring and stuff.
You did the entire labor basically.
Yeah, I pretty much did. Only at the very last second I went and had surgery because my baby wasn't in the right position, and I have my whole birth story recorded for those of you who are like, what the heck happened? It's not the most relaxing, enjoyable, beautiful, like oxytocin filled story, but it's my story. And I've just learned to own it, and not resist, just being like, this is what happened to me. And I know there's a lot of other moms that actually go through that, you know, even though, it's a variation of normal, and it is kind of the exception when there's millions of people being born every day. That means there's thousands and thousands of moms who end up having C-sections all the time.
100%.
And a lot of time they aren't planned. And even if they are, things can go differently and stuff. So, yeah, I'm glad I was able to share that. And then I'm also really passionate about just the postpartum period, because I don't think it's talked about enough. A lot of people don't receive the type of care that my amazing midwives provide. Like, I remember you were actually one of the ones who were like, so what's your plan with stopping work? Yes. And we had like an appointment that was specifically all about that. And so what was, as a home birth midwife who's like on call and stuff, did you really slow down at the end of pregnancy? Do you feel comfortable and confident with like how you applied your own principles to your own experience going into postpartum and stuff? How's that?
Yeah, I stopped working at 36 weeks. And that felt really, really good, especially with my specific job, because working for me is being on call and getting called in the middle of the night, that type of thing.
So unpredictable.
Which was definitely harder at the end of pregnancy to go to people when I'm so large myself. Yeah. And you, as a midwife, you have to get in like different positions, and there's a lot of squatting and things like that. So
or staying up late or longer.
It's hard to stay up through the night when you're really, really pregnant. Yeah, for sure. So it was good to stop at 36 weeks. My birth correlated around the holidays. So I will say I was still kind of busy. That's why when I get pregnant again, obviously we have our plans, but I would love to have like maybe a summer baby or something like that, because it was cool to be pregnant during the holidays, but it's just so busy. You have so much going on and so many plans with friends and family and things like that. So I feel like I could have rested even more. The last couple weeks, I really, really rested, and that felt really, really good. And I did a ton of preparation. It's different with your first baby because you have to do so much preparation. You don't, like right now, you already have all the baby stuff, right? You already,
I already kind of know.
There's actually, not like a ton of stuff that you have to acquire.
Because I didn't end up using my birth kit here, even actually know the little like pads you put in the freezer that you like make. I still have mine in the freezer, and I'm going to use them.
Amazing.
Like, there's certain things that I'm like, no, I'm using those that I made.
Absolutely.
Because I didn't get
we don't waste around here.
No, absolutely not. I put essential oils and aloe all over those pads. Like they're probably like super freezer burnt and might not even work.
They're getting used.
I will complete that task. But yeah, you're right. Like some, you kind of already have like, oh, well, this worked last time and stuff, so you can reapply it. But as a new mom, you're like, I think I'm just going to do everything. Yeah. Everyone said.
Do all the things and, get the little room ready and all of that. And I did some cooking. I thought I was super prepared. I had like a few loaves of bread in the freezer, and I had some soups, and I had some like muffins and cookies that I made, and I put those in the freezer, and I thought that should last us for a while. We blew through that in a week, probably. Yeah.
What were some of your favorite things that you prepped that you're like, oh, I'm definitely doing that again next time, or that you tell your friends or family to also prep?
I think soups is a typical go-to because they freeze really well, and it's really nourishing postpartum. But I really loved the baked treats that I had made. I did a few different types of muffins and some cookies and some like bread things like that. But I think the one-handed snacks are huge postpartum, because you always have a baby in one hand.
Hungry all
You're
the time.
so hungry all the time, and you don't usually have two hands.
Yeah, exactly.
So you need a one-handed thing, like a muffin is great, you know, or those little energy ball things are awesome. Yep. So yeah, I think the next time around I would do even more food prep, because we were super blessed and had a great meal train and all of that, but still, like, that's only a few weeks, and the postpartum period where you only have one hand for the most part
kind of continues forever.
For a long time. For a long, long time.
I wish I still had meals prepped, actually.
I know.
A year and a half
Can
later.
you imagine?
That'd be great.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. I like how Malu put it on our last episode. She said, postpartum is forever.
It is.
Like, it actually is.
It is forever.
Yep. And you were very blessed to have like a really good community. I know you were saying you had a great village. Like, you feel like it was a blessing for you to like have people kind of come in and out of your space and support you in that way.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, did you just like have people come over and sit with you while you breastfeed? So maybe you forgot the pain a little bit because you could sit and chat with other people.
I have an amazing, really big family. I come from a family with 4 children, and they all came to visit me multiple times. My parents came over and sat with me. I have a bunch of friends that came over because I weirdly one of the first people in my friend group to have a baby. So everyone really wanted to come see the baby, and they wanted to come see me too, but everyone came over and sat with us and brought us treats and things like that. And I know some people want privacy in that initial postpartum period. For me, I felt extremely social. I felt like I needed people to come and sit with me and talk with me. I needed to know, okay, like on Wednesday so-and-so is coming over, and it sort of breaks up the day because postpartum, especially those first few days or first few months, it can feel like I call it kind of like Groundhog Day.
100%.
Where it's just the same day over and over. And then you're not even really sleeping. So it's just the same day and night. And
all the time.
and night and day and night. And
it all starts to blend. You're like, wait, is it Tuesday? I have no idea.
So it's nice to know on this specific day, this person's coming over. It helps you know what day it is.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. Have something to look forward to. 100%.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, honestly, even now, having a 1.5-year-old, like my husband will say, hey, tonight, let's go grab sushi and then we'll go watch the sunset at the beach.
Yeah.
And even that really makes me be like all day, because I'm a stay-at-home mom, so I'm with my toddler all day, and I'm just like, wow, 6 o'clock. All right. It's 4 more hours. What are we going to do for 4 hours? Like having those like little goals and like little things that break up the day, definitely within the newborn period, but even now.
Oh yeah.
It helps me
It doesn't
so much.
end. It feels really good to get out of the house. It can feel like a huge challenge to leave the house, to get the bag ready and to get him in the car. And now that it's hot and I want to get the car started before I put him in there and all this stuff. So it feels like a huge challenge just to leave the house. But once we're out, it feels like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah,
fresh air.
100%. I totally agree. There's actually even an Instagram account that I follow, and she talks about how much better the day is when you just get out of the house. And I feel like I was about to get trapped in it's just easier to stay home. I don't even want to pack up everything. Especially I am so hungry all the time. Now that I'm pregnant specifically, I'm like, you have to bring all the snacks.
You need snacks for her. You need
me,
snacks for you.
Exactly. So I'm like, we'll just stay here. But I have realized that I feel like my whole life is better when, even if we just run up to Fresh Market, up the road, she walks around a little bit, I pick up something, I don't know, that I probably don't even need, but we just get out of the house, and when I come back, she naps better, I feel better, we change up the scenery, she's more interested in her toys all over again. That's really been a major key for me, is just getting out of the house, go to the park for an hour and come back, and like even that just makes my whole day like more palatable.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what's so great about like having the postpartum group or different things that I've plugged into. I originally thought it'd be so weird to go to like pregnancy group and postpartum group, but now it's changed my whole life. And now I started a whole podcast all about it, so I can bring that group to literally everyone. So community is everything, and something I really didn't know I'd get so passionate about. I actually used to be much more of like an introvert, or like if I was in a room, try to just, get done what I needed to and exit out the back door before anybody noticed. That was kind of how I was. But now I'm like, so what's your experience been like? What about you? Oh, how old's your baby? And I'm like wanting to know everyone's story, because we really are all, I always say like, no one's momming alone, like we're all just kind of doing it, and it's all really hard at different points. So learning from each other, relating to each other is like way more important than I ever realized.
It's huge. It's a big social need that we have as moms, as women, is to connect with each other. Definitely even before you have a baby, but I notice more so after you have a baby. I think it's like a biologic need for us to connect with the women in our life. And it used to be, when we lived in villages and things like that, it used to be our moms and our sisters and our aunts and, our girlfriends and stuff like that. But now the way our society is, we have to intentionally form those relationships with other moms. But it's so needed. So many of the prenatal visits that we do, yes, it's the clinical aspect of it, but I probably maybe 10 minutes of of it is the clinical aspect, and the rest of it is just connecting with that mom.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time you realize you're the first person probably she's talked to in a while that's a grown adult woman.
Yeah, exactly.
And she's so ready to talk to you about the different things in her life. So
Totally.
I see it so often that we need to connect with each other.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That was a huge aspect of starting the support groups was I saw that moms needed to come together and
talk and just get stuff off their brain and
Absolutely.
process what the heck is happening every day.
Yeah.
Totally.
I think originally I kind of had in mind all these home birth moms need to talk to each other because they're choosing something that isn't the societal norm, so they can connect on that and get ready for their home births and stuff like that. And then more and more moms came that weren't even planning a home birth, that were planning hospital births or something like that. And it was just moms that needed to talk to each other.
Yeah. Because it's really hard to find people in the exact same season as you. Just like even you are in about as far in the home birth community as you can get. And even you were like in my own friend group, no one was like in the exact same season. So coming together with people who are also expecting a baby within the next month or something like that is really powerful, especially in today's society, in our Western culture. Everything's so isolated. Like everything's behind social media. We don't really come together a lot. So just being in person is not the norm, unfortunately, which is kind of crazy. So yeah, what you ladies have created is so beautiful. I mean, not only specifically in your care, like in all the crunchy mom groups I'm in, people are always like, I just want to have more babies so I can work with modern midwives because y'all are the best. But also just like for postpartum care. And then even like Olivia has mentioned, now she sees, even if she doesn't have group 1 week or if she's out of town, she sees other people going to the park together. And, you know, it's like creating community within her community, and then that branches out, and then even, I guess, look at what we're doing now, making this a global platform where anyone in the world can connect with other moms. You know, it's like really amazing how that happens. So I guess even kind of going back to like resistance, like I used to resist connection. I'm gonna be real. Like I used to kind of resist wanting to make friends. I think maybe it's because I moved around a little bit, like throughout like middle and high school. So I was kind of just annoyed with making friends. I'm like, fine, I'll just never do it again. And so I kind of like resisted wanting to connect or like go deeper with people. So maybe that's somewhere that a mom is stuck because she's like, I don't want to go to a mom group. That seems weird. I don't want to talk to someone random at a coffee shop with a kid the same age as me. That seems weird. But actually, what if it could change your life? Like
absolutely
hearing a tip they give you, or that they're even going through the same thing and they also only got 3 hours of sleep last night. And you're like, wow, I'm not crazy. Like that makes a difference.
I think if you're so isolated, especially in the early phases of motherhood, it can feel like maybe you're actually failing all the normal things, like my baby's not really sleeping, or maybe I have a hard latch that's kind of painful and we're working through that, or maybe my healing is longer than what they say on the textbook, which is 6 weeks. Maybe it takes 8 weeks or 12 weeks. And it's so easy to get in your head and think I'm the one outlier that's not having a normal experience according to what I read online or in the textbook or something like that. And then you talk to other moms and realize actually most people are not doing the textbook thing.
It's not always the same at all for everyone.
And they might be experiencing something according to the textbook in one area, but then they have something else funky going on in another area, and it just really normalizes the whole process to you that it's hard for most women. And easy in some aspects too, but it's really nice to kind of normalize that it's a big challenging season of life and it's not really supposed to be easy.
I remember one time one of my friends, because one of my struggles is that my daughter has never really napped a long time. Even I was like so stoked when she finally dropped down to 1 nap a day, because I'm like, maybe that one will be really great now that that's her main one. And it's still always almost on the dot 25 minutes.
Wow.
Like I'd have a little timer.
She's a cat napper.
Yeah, she is. I have a little timer and I watch, and sometimes it's like 24 minutes and 58 seconds. I'm like, and here we go. And by 26 minutes, she's awake. Like it's always almost on the dot. If she sleeps for 45 minutes, I'm floored.
Like, are you okay?
Yeah. Is she good? Or actually like twice in her whole life, she slept like during the day as a nap for like 2 hours. So I'm like, this is insane.
She was going through a growth spurt.
I don't even know what to do with myself. Yeah. So I wish we would just grow more, I guess, like all the time. But anyways, so that's been like something that's like, gosh, in my mind as a woman, I would love to get some other things done, whether it's stuff around the house, spending some quiet time alone, going to the gym. It's like I can't really plan for her to nap super long. So I put her down. I may like go pee real quick, even look at the dishes, and then she's awake already. And I'm like, I didn't complete anything. Yeah. And so it's really frustrating. And even one time, one of my friends, I said, I'm like, yeah, she only really naps for like 25, 30 minutes. And all she said was, oh my gosh, I bet you like, it's like really hard for you to ever get things done. And I'm like, Thank you.
Thank you for seeing me.
It is very hard. I felt so like just seen, like just something like that. Like, it's not like you have to build these best friends and amazingly deep connections, but she happens to have a baby the similar age that's a better napper. And she's like, oh man, that sounds really tough. And I'm like, it freaking is. Like, you're right. Like, no wonder I feel crazy sometimes. And, you know, she has other challenges she's going through with her baby that I hear from. And I'm like, oh, well, kind of thank God I'm not going through that. You know, it's like kind of even gives you perspective of other things moms are going through that you're not. And you're like, oh, well, could be harder in other ways. And so it's great perspective.
Everybody has their own hard.
For sure. I love it. So if you were to just give a pregnant mom preparing for postpartum one tip, what would that be? Like, if you're like, this is a takeaway, write it down, prepare in this way.
I'd say the biggest thing is, I kind of touched on this before, that a lot of women want to be in their own private little bubble, or they think they want to be in their own private little bubble, and they don't really let people come over. They don't really allow visitors, or if they do, it's just like drop something off real quick and then you leave. But I would say if it feels good to you, and to each their own, but let people in, you know, like let people come over and sit with you and be okay with letting them help you. I think that's just people in general, but especially as women in our day and age, I think we have such a hard time accepting help and saying, yeah, like you can switch over the laundry for me. Okay, sure. You can load my dishwasher. Letting them into that level of caring for you feels kind of vulnerable for so many people. Letting them see that not everything is pristine and perfect all the time, especially when you have a baby. But if you can let people in, it is going to be such a huge weight off your shoulders to not have to bear all of that load alone. And so if you can figure out a way to arrange for your mom to come over, your sister to come over, for one of your friends to come over, and be very direct with them about what it is that would be helpful for you. Because I think the reality of people in your life is that they want to help, they want to be genuinely helpful for you, but they're not sure exactly how to do it. What used to be second nature for so many women to, you know, to come into the home and to care for you in that birth and postpartum period is now sort of being lost in our day and age. So being very direct with them of like, you know, maybe it is helpful for you to come in and hold the baby, but most of the time not, you know, it's more helpful for you to come in and to just like, if you see a little bit of mess, like tidy it up for me. Or if, you know, come over with a meal and maybe help me prep a meal for next time, help tidy up my kitchen. That would be so great. If you could just run my vacuum across the house, like that would be huge, you know, that type of stuff. If you can get on that level with people, it will change your whole postpartum experience.
Asking for help is definitely super challenging. I didn't ever know I like struggled with that, because I felt like, you know, I don't mind asking my mom to do something, but it is like so vulnerable when you're crying on the couch because your nipples hurt and stuff. And you're like, how do I even know what I need? Like, because you did have such an amazing community, did you have people offering those kinds of things, or did you have to really be intentional to ask, like as you're sitting there chilling on the couch, maybe watching TV with your brother or sister or something, and you're like, can you also just like vacuum for me? Like, what was that practically like?
I have a very unique family situation because I have an amazing mother and I have two sisters, and they're all the type of women that will come in and they just do it, you know? So they come in, they'll come with food, they'll wash the dishes and then run the vacuum. And I'm just sitting there the whole time. I didn't have to ask them to do anything. And I have an amazing family unit like that. But I also think that's how, you know, we used to be as like a family style society is you'd have people come in and, you're all one unit. So it just kind of makes sense that we help each other. And now it's not as typical for your friend to come over and to just like help you tidy up your home real quick. I want that to become the norm again.
Yeah, for sure. We need t-shirts about that.
Yeah. And I think
friend's house.
You just have to like be that friend. and show people that, you know, that's something that they can do, and that's welcome, and that's not weird, and it's not an invasion or anything. It's just, it's cool to help each other.
Being
like
intuitive.
That. Yeah.
Just like being like, you know, I really needed this when I had a baby, or she may need a coffee today, or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be huge, but even just like putting thoughtful anything into a mom who's like feeling isolated just because they're at home with their baby all the time. A small amount goes a long way.
Don't even ask. Just come over and do it. Bring the meal. Just say, hey, I'm going to drop this off. Obviously, you don't want to invade their home or anything. Like if they're having a day where they're like, oh, I really just want to be alone, then of course respect that. But I would say most of the time, if you reach out to a postpartum mom and you say like, hey, I want to bring you something, and can I just sit and talk with you and whatever, she's probably going to say yes most of the time.
100%. Yeah. Cause it's that community. It's just talking about something that isn't just breastfeeding your baby and just, you know, whatever it is, you're binge watching something on Netflix, like, oh, I needed to hear what's going on in someone else's life. You know, just a breath of fresh air.
Totally.
Sure. I love it.
Or even just sitting quietly on the couch with someone is very nice. My sister would do that with me and just come over. We just watch TV together while I'm breastfeeding. And it just felt nice to just have someone's presence, you know?
Yeah. And you don't realize how helpful it is to have just an extra set of hands. Like, and I think this has probably been something joked about a ton on like Instagram and stuff on different reels, but you sit down, you're about to breastfeed, you have everything you need except your water, but just the baby's already dozing off, and you're just like, if there was just someone here, I could be like, could you grab my water?
Yeah.
Like that makes a huge difference.
Totally.
It's life-changing because you don't have to resituate yourself. And, you know.
It's the little things postpartum.
Like just having someone here. I'm very blessed. My husband works from home. So even when he, you know, returned to work, he does go out for appointments here and there. But he would like make sure I'm all set up. Everything's within reach before he would leave if he had to. Or I could text him from the other room and say, can you please just start some food? The baby's asleep on me. I'm trapped. Like help. So yeah, having him work from home is great. Or like having your mom stay with you. I know sometimes it's like, oh gosh, maybe for the first few days, but not long. You know, a lot of people really are blessed and they're like, oh, having my mom for 4 weeks or having my mom would be amazing. You know, now that you go through it, that's something I feel like a lot of people.
Yeah. My mom is amazing. And she offered to stay with us for the first 2 weeks. And I think it was another naive first time mom thing. I just kind of underestimated. I was like, no, I didn't want to inconvenience her, but also I thought I'm going to want like my own private little thing. I don't know if I want my mom sleeping here for that long.
Yeah.
And then now looking back, I realize it would have been a much more peaceful 2 weeks, for initial 2 weeks, one for me, but also for my partner, because he ended up doing absolutely everything. He was cooking every meal. He was getting me my water. He was cleaning, doing the laundry, all of that. So he barely had any time to just lay in bed with us and stare at the baby. I was doing all of that, which, you know, maybe rightfully so, because I did grow the baby and birth the baby and all of that. So it's nice to lay in bed and stare at the baby, but it's also his baby too. So it would have been really nice for him to not have that much to do so that we could just lay in bed and look at the baby together and just get to know our new little son. And so next time around, here's all my tips for myself next time around is
me too.
I'm going to say yes to my mom. I'm going to say, yes, of course you can stay over 2 weeks, please, maybe 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks.
Or just move in with us forever. All year would be great. Alex and I were just talking about that. You know, I think literally laying in bed last night, he's like, I really, you know, we're just like praying about it. We're like, God, just make a way for him to take a little more time off this time. He didn't really like rush too much back into work, but he has multiple businesses. So he just like ends up having to do stuff, and he works from home. So it's not like, you know, he just like can choose to go back on this date. It's like he starts getting texts, he starts getting calls, and now, oh, look, he returned to work. So he's like, I really want to take the time with you this time. So we're really going to try to, you know, pray about God opening those kind of doors, both financially and just logistically. Yeah. Because also, you know, me healing from surgery, which I think also forced me to relax probably a lot more than I would have. Mandy and I talked a lot about like how women are like, I'm feeling great, and just they accidentally rush back into things. She's like, well, you should feel great and then just keep feeling great by not doing anything and don't jump the gun. So I think because I actually literally physically could not jump the gun, I'm like, no, I have to sit, you know. It forced me to relax for as long as I should. And I just told Alex that last night. I'm like, but we need to remember, even in Jesus' name, when I have a beautiful home birth this time and everything's vaginally and like I'm healing quicker physically, we still need to apply everything that we learned last time about me taking it easy and meals coming to me and like all of the things I was very blessed to have in my husband. He literally made all my meals, cooked everything, did all the dishes, which is like usually not his role at all. I'm like I've always cooked for us. I've always, you know, cleaned up, and he's, you know, thankfully the provider of the home. So like him like shifting gears, also providing, but also like, you know, providing for me physically in that way was really intense. But we're like, you know, maybe we need some postpartum help, or some people even have like hire help. Maybe they don't have a village or a mom that lives nearby or community. Like you can hire postpartum doulas and stuff. Have you ever seen women who are more like isolated? We live in a very like military prominent community. So like people who maybe don't know anyone here, what would you suggest for those moms? Because I actually have no idea.
I do take care of lots of moms that they don't have any family around, they just moved here, so they don't have a ton of close friends that they would want to invite into their postpartum bubble in that way. And postpartum doulas are a huge help in that way. There's really nothing that can replace the societal, you know, dynamic of having family, because when you hire a postpartum doula, you know, there's only, unless you have unlimited funds, then of course there's only so many visits that she can do and things like that. Versus like your mom is never going to stop being your mom. And still to this day, my mom will come over and hang out with my baby and stuff like that. So, obviously family is ideal, I think, in the postpartum period and beyond, just having that familial dynamic. But yeah, postpartum doulas are huge. Even if you have great family, somebody that's going to come over, usually they're really well versed in lactation versus like your family not really usually,
or maybe giving not helpful advice
Old
school tips. We're like, I am not doing that.
Yes. My mom personally, she's so great. I will say that when she saw me struggling so much with breastfeeding, it was so hard for her to see me in pain, and she was a voice in my head that was like, well, maybe you don't need to be breastfeeding if your nipples keep getting damaged over and over, and there's nothing wrong with formula and all of that. And I was like, Mom, I know you're trying to be helpful, but I'm seeing this through. I will be seeing this through, you know? So that's one, you know, maybe downside of family is they're not super well versed in the birth world in that way. So postpartum doulas are really helpful,
more
in that
up
period.
to date,
and they're professionals, you know. So,
and I feel like with midwives or doulas, they really adapt to your goals, whereas like sometimes you may butt heads with like people, you know, not even your mom. She was probably being very gentle, but I know there can be more aggressive situations where people are like, well, then just do it this way, do it that way.
Whereas, that's not the way I did it.
Yeah. Someone that's professional is always like, whatever you want, I'm going to help you get to that goal. So yeah, that's interesting. I guess there's pros and cons with both. So last thing I just want to chat about real quickly is like, I feel like we're kind of, I don't know, sometimes like yesterday actually was a really hard day for me. I'm like, wow, I'm still in the thick of it. I am a new freaking mom still. Like I do not have it figured out. But what would you say to new moms who maybe they're even within the first few months? I also feel like I went through another little valley around maybe like 4-ish months when my baby still wasn't sitting up alone. And I'm like, well, now it was like a different kind of hard where I'm off the couch. I can get back to normal-ish life, but I can't just like sit her down and then like go do what I need to do. And like, she still naps 3 times a day. So it's like everything's so broken up. So maybe a mom that is still a new mom, but in the thick of like, not quite postpartum, they're over that hump, but now they're just trying to live their life with a baby. And now we're kind of a little bit on the other side, you know, like of some of that. Again, definitely don't have it all figured out. So much learning every day, all the time, forever, probably till they're 50, you know? So, but what would you kind of say to the new mom in the thick of like more of that season, just still new momming it pretty hard, a few months in, different challenges coming up. How do you feel now? Like, what would you tell that mom?
I would say stop trying to figure out the schedule. It's not that crazy.
Just go with the flow.
Go with the flow. Every day's a new day. Every night's a new night. They're going to have a different sleep schedule. I mean, it might maybe follow some sort of pattern, but then as soon as they get into a pattern, it's just going to change. So
100%. I feel like that actually even goes with our specific topic for today. Like the only struggles in the resistance. So if you're like trying to resist them wanting to nap at a certain time or trying to resist bedtime changing, it's like that makes it so much harder on you mentally.
Yes.
If you're just kind of like, I'm just not a super rigid person. And I even have friends and family members that are so rigid, and that helps them, and being home at nap time and doing it the same way, like that's what they need. So no judgment for that person. Yeah. But if that's not how you are, it's okay. If sleep training feels wrong for you, it's okay. If, you know, certain things like that, you know, just your schedule's crazy and changing all the time, your baby's going to live.
Yeah.
And
Your baby will
you're doing
adapt. Your baby's not some equation for you to figure out, you know, it's just treat each day like a brand new adventure, you know? And so wake up and be like, what do you have in store for me today? How many naps will you be taking today? Will it be 25 minutes? Will it be 2 hours? We'll see.
Yeah.
You know? And then same thing with nighttime, because I think the daytime for me in early postpartum was much easier. I hear that from a lot of moms, that it's much better when the sun is up. And then when the sun starts to go down, they get that feeling of maybe like a little bit depressed or anxious or something like that. And so I felt similar to that nighttime was difficult because I was wondering, how many hours am I going to get tonight? You know, so treat each bedtime like a totally different, unique adventure. And it could happen in 10 minutes. It could happen in an hour. We'll see.
Yeah.
And then just know that it's a really fleeting season, and that when you look back, you're not going to think, oh, I really got nap time down. You know, you're just going to think that was a really sweet, tender time of my life, you know?
Yeah. I feel like maybe it's because in our culture, a lot of women aren't really leaning into their feminine so much, like just that intuitive, like, what does my baby need? Just allowing yourself to just like read their cues and do what feels natural. Because we have grown into such a society that is so, I guess, rigid is the best term. Like, you know, they should be getting this amount of sleep. They should be doing this. And by this, you know, amount of months, they should be doing that. And like feeling stressed if they're not sitting up or crawling at the right time, and like allowing those things to weigh on you mentally, whether it's just every baby's different. And like you said, every day is a new adventure. We're all trying to just get to the same goal of a healthy, taken care of, loved baby. And if it looks different for each of your children, that's okay. If it looks different every day, every month, every season, they're just always growing and changing. So,
they are. Yeah. It's really difficult to cram in the nature of a baby into our current societal structure, where we have so much on our plates. Typically, most people are so busy and they have such a crammed schedule. And so it's very helpful if your baby naps at the same time every single day. That's
for sure.
So awesome, because you
especially working moms.
So, especially working moms. If you can count on every single day at 12, they go down and it's for 3 hours and I can get all my stuff done. Can you imagine? Wouldn't that be amazing?
What is that like?
I don't know.
What would life be?
My baby does not nap like that. So it can be difficult to let them just be babies that have a different day every single day when you have a schedule that really needs them to adapt to it, you know. But that's not, you can't tell a baby like, hey, you got to stick to my schedule.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That's not how it is, unfortunately.
I wish it was. That'd be great. Yeah, I guess I kind of, just to sum it all up, what I feel is that there's a struggle that's in every season, whether it's the postpartum season, and it's just kind of constant. Even though it's really, I like what Mandy said. She's like, taking care of a baby really isn't that hard. You know, you feed them, you change your diaper, and then they go back to sleep. So it's like logistically, it's pretty simple, but there's always new things that arise, and then the emotions, and you're getting you're used to life with doing those things all the time, around the clock, very consistently. So like that very tender postpartum period, there is definitely some struggle. But then, like what I was talking about, now you're trying to get back to life with a baby, do baby wear and just do all your normal things, you know, and then you have a toddler. Like when Evelyn first started wanting to like literally crawl and climb on everything, I remember doing actually 2 dishes. Like, it's not like I was very involved in a task. And I turned around and she had scooted our dining room chair back, climbed up on the dining room table, and she's playing with all the fruit in the basket. I'm like, that happened in 10 seconds. So it's like a different, your mind is always adapting. And so like resisting that is challenging, because motherhood's very fluid. It's ever changing. And so whether it's in labor, new postpartum, all these other crazy seasons that maybe we haven't even, you know, discovered yet, coming up into, you know, school age children and stuff, it's always going to be hard. But the struggle truly is in like resisting all the changes that come your way, and just allowing yourself to be vulnerable to all of it, allowing yourself to just what do we say? Surrender. The big surrender. I like how you said that. It's just a big surrender all the time, every day. Like right now, my current craziness is my daughter's cutting 2 molars, and she just doesn't want to go down for her nap, even though I know she's so tired, and she's like falling asleep, but then she's in pain, so it wakes her back up. So I feel myself in that moment being like, just go to sleep. And I could sit and like think about all the things that I need to do, but I just feel myself have that big surrender, and I just sit there and sing to her. Or if she wants me to rock her again, sure. If she wants another bottle, sure. Like I'm I'm just here to help you through this really challenging thing you're doing, which is cutting teeth, which to me seems like, why wouldn't you just sleep? I think it would be helpful.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. But just surrendering to it and just not letting yourself feel like it should be going a different way, or whether it is me feeling like my birth should have been a different way, or labor should be different, or, motherhood should be different. Just allowing it to happen and just being vulnerable, having that big surrender and just letting it be.
Yeah. And when you surrender into it and stop resisting it over and over again, I notice, at least in me and probably in so many women, that there's so much character development that happens when you stop resisting it. And, when she's crying again and you're just showing up for her with love again and again and again, your capacity to selflessly love as a mother grows and grows, so that I think that's another huge facet of not resisting,
definitely.
And just letting yourself surrender into being a source of selfless love for your baby. It's really
amazing.
Yeah.
It's a great way to end the episode, because like you said, you're not going to remember the specific nap time, just like she won't remember this specific season of her life, but I will remember, and she will remember the bond we created, and that she was always loved and cared for. And like, those are the things that are lasting. So just kind of like allowing yourself to surrender in the moments that actually don't really matter in the long run.
Not really.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. It all
feels big
happens
in the moment.
Yeah.
Then you look back and you're
So
like, that
true.
really was just a little detail.
Yeah, for sure. Just a quick little speed bump. I love it. Well, thank you for taking the time to chat with me. I feel like I
love this.
Like I said in the beginning, I feel like this will bless so many moms, because it's like an ever changing, ever evolving surrender that happens in every season. So I pray that this has blessed everybody listening. I know it will. And definitely follow us on Instagram. And I need to do a much better job posting more consistently, but that's where I post when I'm going to record an episode, and that's how you can get plugged in with us. And my goal with this is just creating a online virtual village where people can just plug in, hear stories, hear struggles, hear tips, and connect with other moms. So thanks for chatting with me. I loved connecting with you, and I'm glad that everybody gets all of your knowledge and wisdom and experiences all put into one episode, so you can share and bless people all over the world. That's the goal.
I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. You're the best.
Thanks for inviting me.